Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Native Echo Podcast. I'm Harper, and today we are talking about something I genuinely love: coffee. Not just the drink itself, but everything around it: the rituals, the habits, the little moments that coffee creates in a day. I want to talk about coffee culture, what it means, how it looks different around the world, and why, for so many people, coffee is much more than just a hot drink in the morning. Let me start with something personal. I did not always drink coffee. When I was a teenager, I thought coffee was a very adult, very serious thing, like something you drink when you have problems and deadlines and a job you are tired of. I remember watching my mother make her coffee every single morning. The same time, the same cup, the same quiet ritual. She would stand in the kitchen, wait for it to brew, and then just hold the cup with both hands and look out the window for a few minutes before the day started. She never rushed that part. Everything else could wait, but that moment was hers. I did not understand it then. Now, I do it myself, almost exactly the same way. Same quiet, same window, same both hands around the cup. And I think that is what coffee culture really is at its heart. It is not about caffeine. It is about the pause, the small, deliberate moment you give yourself before the noise of the day begins. So, when did coffee become such a big part of daily life for so many people around the world? The story of coffee is actually really fascinating. Coffee originally comes from Ethiopia. There is an old legend, and nobody knows if it is completely true, but it is a beautiful story. A goat herder named Kaldi noticed his goats were unusually energetic after eating berries from a certain tree. They were jumping around, not sleeping at night, full of energy. He tried the berries himself and felt the same thing. That discovery, centuries ago, eventually led to what billions of people drink every single morning today. From Ethiopia, coffee spread to the Arabian Peninsula, and that is where coffee culture, as we know it, really began to take shape. In places like Yemen, people began roasting and brewing the beans. And then something really important happened. Coffee houses appeared. These were called kafakane, and they were places where people came not just to drink coffee, but to talk, to play chess, to share news, to debate ideas. They were called schools of the wise. And honestly, when I think about a good coffee shop today, that description still fits. A place where conversation happens, where ideas move around the room along with the steam rising from the cups. Coffee eventually made its way to Europe in the 1600s, and it changed things there too. In England, coffee houses became incredibly important. Business deals were made in them. Newspapers were read and discussed. Lloyd's of London, which became one of the most famous insurance companies in the world, actually started as a coffee house. People would gather there, share information about ships and trade, and slowly build something that became a major institution. All of that started with a cup of coffee and a place to sit. Now, when we talk about coffee culture today, it looks very different depending on where you are in the world. And I find these differences so interesting because they say a lot about the people and the rhythm of life in each place. Let me talk about Italy first, because Italian coffee culture is probably the most iconic. In Italy, coffee is fast. Espresso is the base of everything. You walk into a bar, and in Italy, a bar is a coffee place, not a place for alcohol necessarily. You walk in, you stand at the counter, you order, you drink your espresso in about 30 seconds, you pay, you leave. There is no sitting for hours with a laptop. There is no large cup with a complicated name. Just a small, perfect, intense shot of coffee. And that is it. The ritual is quick, but it is sacred. Italians take their coffee very seriously. Ask for a cappuccino after noon in Italy, and people will look at you with a kind of polite horror. Cappuccino is a morning drink. After lunch, you drink espresso. These are not suggestions. These are the rules. Compare that to Scandinavian coffee culture, which is almost the complete opposite in pace. In countries like Sweden, Finland, and Norway, there is a concept called fika. Fika is a Swedish word, and it does not translate perfectly into English, which I think is a sign that the concept itself is unique. Fika means taking a break to have coffee and something to eat, usually a pastry, and doing that with other people. But fika is not just a coffee break, it is a social institution. Companies in Sweden have fika built into the working day. You stop, you sit with your colleagues, you drink coffee, you eat a cinnamon roll, and you talk. Not about work necessarily, just talk, connect, be human together for a few minutes. Then you go back to work. The idea is that this pause makes everything else better. You work better after fika. You feel more connected to the people around you. Productivity actually goes up, not down. I love this idea. The idea that stopping is productive, that rest and connection are not the opposite of work, but actually part of it. Then there's Turkish coffee, which has its own completely different ritual and meaning. Turkish coffee is made in a small pot called a cezve. The coffee is ground very finely, mixed with water and sometimes sugar, and then heated slowly until it foams. It is served in small cups, and you do not stir it. You let the grounds settle at the bottom, and you drink slowly, carefully, without disturbing the sediment at the bottom. And when you finish, there is a tradition. You turn the cup upside down on the saucer, let it cool, and then someone reads your fortune in the shapes the coffee grounds leave behind. It is called tasseography, or coffee cup reading. Now, whether you believe in fortune telling or not does not really matter. The ritual of sitting with someone, sharing coffee, and then looking at patterns and talking about the future, that is meaningful. That is connection through a shared cup. Ethiopian coffee culture is also worth talking about because Ethiopia is where coffee comes from, and they have one of the most beautiful coffee ceremonies in the world. The coffee ceremony, called a Buna ceremony, is not quick. It can take hours. Green coffee beans are first roasted over an open flame, right there in front of the guests. The smell fills the room. Then the beans are ground, brewed in a traditional clay pot called a jabena, and served in 3 rounds. Each round has a name. The first is a bowl, the second is tona, the third is baraka, which means blessing. You are supposed to stay for all 3. Leaving after just 1 cup would be considered rude. The ceremony is an act of hospitality and respect. It is how you say, I welcome you. I have time for you. You matter to me. 3 rounds of coffee. That is how much you matter. Now I want to talk about something that has changed coffee culture dramatically in the last 20 or 30 years, and that is the specialty coffee movement. For most of history, coffee was just coffee. It was a commodity. You bought it cheap, you made it at home or at a diner. It was functional. It gave you energy. Fine. But then something shifted. People started paying closer attention. Where did these beans come from exactly? What altitude were they grown at? Who picked them? How were they processed after the harvest? What does this particular bean taste like when brewed at this particular temperature? This is what people in the coffee world call the third wave of coffee. The first wave was coffee becoming widely available and affordable for everyone. The second wave was chains like Starbucks making coffee drinks popular and social, giving people a place to go. The third wave is about treating coffee like wine or fine food, appreciating the origin, the craft, the nuance. And this has created a whole new kind of coffee shop. Walk into a specialty coffee shop today, and you might see something called a pour-over, which is a slow manual brewing method where hot water is poured carefully over ground coffee in a filter. Or a Chemex, which is a beautiful glass vessel that brews coffee slowly and cleanly. Or an AeroPress, or cold brew, or a siphon brewer, which looks like it belongs in a science laboratory. These are not just ways to make coffee. They are statements about caring deeply about something small, about finding beauty in the ordinary, about slowing down and paying attention. The barista, which is the Italian word for the person who makes coffee, has become a skilled profession. A good barista knows about grind size and water temperature and extraction time. They can steam milk into little patterns, which is called latte art: a heart, a leaf, a rosette in your flat white. It sounds small, but when someone hands you a cup of coffee with a little leaf pattern in the foam and you did not expect it, it feels like a small gift, a moment of care in your day. I want to talk about coffee shops as spaces for a moment, because I think the physical place matters enormously in coffee culture. There's a concept sometimes called the third place, which is a term from sociology. Your first place is your home. Your second place is your workplace. Your third place is somewhere outside of those two, where you go to be part of a community, to relax, to be yourself without obligation. For many people around the world, the coffee shop is their third place. Think about what a good coffee shop feels like. There is usually warmth, soft lighting, the smell of coffee brewing, which researchers have actually found has a calming effect on people even before you drink anything. There is ambient noise, other conversations, background music, the sound of the espresso machine, and somehow that level of noise is actually helpful for focus. Studies have shown that a moderate level of ambient noise, the kind you find in a coffee shop, can boost creative thinking. It is not too quiet, which can feel isolating. It is not too loud, which is distracting. It is just right for thinking. People write in coffee shops. They have meetings in coffee shops. They read. They study. They have difficult conversations. They have first dates. They have last conversations. Coffee shops hold so much of human life. They are neutral territory. Nobody owns the space. Everyone belongs equally, as long as they have a cup in front of them. I have had some of the most important conversations of my life in coffee shops. Something about the setting makes honesty easier. Maybe it is because you have something to do with your hands. You can look at your cup when a silence gets too heavy. You can take a sip when you need a moment to think. The cup is a social tool, not just a drink. There is also something I find really interesting about how coffee has become tied to identity and personality in recent years. People talk about their coffee order the way they talk about personality types. Oh, I am a black coffee person. That means I am direct, no nonsense, I do not need things to be fancy. Or I am an oat milk lavender latte person. That means I care about aesthetics and I am open to trying new things. Or I drink instant coffee at home, which means I am practical and I do not have time for complicated rituals on a Tuesday morning for a Wednesday morning. These are obviously generalizations, and they are a little bit silly, but they point to something real. Coffee has become a language, a way of signaling who you are and what you value. When you find out someone orders the same coffee as you, there is a tiny moment of recognition, a small sense of belonging. We are the same kind of person in this one small way. And I think that is why coffee culture has spread so far and so fast around the world. Not just because of the taste or the caffeine, although both of those things matter, but because coffee is a ritual, and humans love rituals. Rituals give structure to time. They create before and after. Before coffee, the day has not started. After coffee, you are ready. The ritual is the signal to your brain that a transition is happening. Something is beginning. Morning coffee is a transition ritual. The coffee you get on your way to an important meeting is a preparation ritual. The afternoon coffee with a friend is a connection ritual. The late night coffee in a quiet kitchen when you cannot sleep is a thinking ritual. Different cups for different moments. The same drink doing very different emotional work each time. I want to end with something I read once that I have never forgotten. A writer said that coffee is the great social equalizer. Rich and poor, young and old, from every country and every background. People everywhere find a way to make coffee and share it. In the most expensive specialty cafes in Tokyo or Melbourne or Copenhagen, in small clay pots over open fires in rural Ethiopia, in paper cups from machines in hospital waiting rooms, in chipped mugs at kitchen tables at 6 in the morning all over the world. Coffee is always there. It is always warm. And for the moment that you are drinking it, everything else can wait. I really believe that. The world can wait for coffee. And maybe that is the most human thing about it. Okay, let me do a quick word tour before we go. These are the key words and ideas from today. Ritual. A ritual is something you do regularly in the same way. It becomes meaningful because of the repetition. My morning coffee is a ritual. Commodity. A commodity is something that is produced and sold in large amounts, usually without much focus on quality or origin. Coffee used to be just a commodity. Specialty. When we say specialty coffee, we mean high quality coffee, where the origin and the craft matter. This cafe serves specialty coffee from a small farm in Colombia. Barista. The person who makes coffee professionally, especially espresso based drinks. She trained as a barista for 3 years. Extraction. In coffee, extraction is the process of pulling flavor out of the coffee grounds using water. A perfect extraction gives you the best flavor. Third place. A social concept. Your home is the first place, work is the second, and the third place is somewhere else where you belong and feel comfortable. For many people, a coffee shop is their third place. Ambient noise. The background sound in a place. Not loud, not silent, just the gentle noise of activity around you. I focus better with a little ambient noise. Fika. A Swedish word for a coffee and pastry break taken with other people. It is a social ritual, not just a rest. We had fika at 3 and talked for 20 minutes. It made the whole afternoon better. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you are learning English and you want real conversations about real life, this is the place for you. Subscribe to Native Echo Podcast so you never miss an episode. And tell me in the comments, what does your coffee ritual look like? Do you drink it fast, slow, alone, with people? I really want to know. Take care, and I will see you in the next episode.